To understand the alarm caused by 3I Atlas, we have to rewind the clock to 2017. That's when the first recognized interstellar visitor, a bizarre object named Oumuamua, tumbled through our solar system. The name is Hawaiian for scout, and it lived up to its title. Oumuamua was nothing like a typical comet or asteroid. It was long and thin, shaped something like a cosmic cigar. It didn't have a visible tail or coma of gas and dust like a comet should, yet it was accelerating away from the sun as if something was pushing it. This strange push without any visible outgassing was a profound puzzle for scientists. Oumuamua was a cosmic enigma that came and went too quickly. By the time we realized how strange it was already heading back out into the void, too far and too fast for us to get a good look. We were left with more questions than answers. Some astronomers proposed natural explanations like a nitrogen iceberg flaking away invisibly. But others, including prominent scientists, dared to ask a more provocative question. What if Oumuamua was not natural at all? What if its strange shape and acceleration were signs of technology? The idea of an alien probe, a piece of extraterrestrial hardware, was on the table. The mystery of Oumuamua lingered in the scientific community like a ghost. It was a missed opportunity, a tantalizing glimpse of something extraordinary that we couldn't confirm. It primed us, prepared us, for the possibility that the next visitor might be just as strange, or even stranger. Oumuamua was the dress rehearsal. It taught us to be ready, to have our best instruments pointed at the sky, because we now knew that objects from other star systems could, and would, pay us a visit. It was a scientific cliffhanger that left the world of astronomy holding its breath, waiting for the sequel. So when the alert for 3I Atlas came, it landed on fertile ground of speculation and preparedness. We had been haunted by the ghost of Oumuamua, the one that got away. This time we were determined not to miss a thing. The memory of that first visitor sharpened our focus and fueled our urgency. Was this new object another natural anomaly, or was it something else? The legacy of Oumuamua was the silent question that hung over every observation of 3I Atlas. Is this the one? Is this the moment we finally discover that we are not alone in the universe? The stage was set for a cosmic drama of unprecedented scale. Then, in late 2024, it happened again. The Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, or ATLAS in Hawaii, flagged a faint object moving on an interstellar trajectory. It was designated 3I Atlas, the third interstellar object ever detected. But this was no Oumuamua. From the start, 3I Atlas behaved with an unnerving deliberateness that made its predecessor seem like a random drifter. Its path was not a simple hyperbolic curve, it was making subtle but undeniable course corrections. It was adjusting its trajectory as it sailed through our solar system, something a natural comet or asteroid simply cannot do. It was as if the object had a destination in mind. The initial observations from ground-based telescopes were baffling. Unlike Oumuamua's reddish inert surface, 3I Atlas had a strange metallic sheen that reflected sunlight in ways that defied easy explanation. Its brightness fluctuated with an almost perfect regularity, suggesting a controlled rotation rather than a chaotic tumble. And while it had a tail, it wasn't the diffuse, dusty tail of a comet. It was thin, structured, and seemed to be composed of particles that were being ejected with remarkable precision. This was not the messy spray of a melting ice ball. This was something controlled, something engineered. The strangeness only deepened as it drew closer. Spectrographic analysis, which breaks down light to determine an object's composition, returned results that were simply impossible for a natural object. It showed traces of heavy elements and complex molecules that shouldn't exist on the surface of a simple cosmic rock. The object was also emitting faint but persistent radio waves. They weren't complex enough to be a clear message, but they were not random noise either. They were patterned, a simple repeating beat that sounded like a cosmic metronome ticking away as it approached the inner solar system. This collection of anomalies set off alarm bells in observatories around the world. A tumbling rock is one thing. An object that steers, shines with a metallic glint, and emits patterned signals is another entirely. The scientific community scrambled, but a quiet consensus began to form in the background. This was no ordinary visitor. 3I Atlas wasn't just passing through, it was performing. It was displaying capabilities that hinted at a level of technology far beyond our own. The unwelcome visitor was starting to look less like a guest and more like an inspector, and we had no idea what it was looking for. As 3I Atlas moved closer, the world's most powerful observatory, the James Webb Space Telescope, was brought to bear. Floating in the cold darkness of space a million miles from Earth, Webb's powerful infrared vision was perfectly suited to dissect the mysteries of this strange visitor. What it saw was nothing short of revolutionary. The telescope's incredible precision allowed astronomers to track the object's movements with unprecedented accuracy. The subtle course corrections were confirmed beyond any doubt. 3I Atlas was not just being nudged by gravity, it was actively navigating, firing what appeared to be small, precise thrusters to adjust its path. Webb's infrared instruments also gave us our first clear look at the object's tail. It was not a tail of gas and dust sublimating from an icy nucleus. Instead, Webb saw a structured plume of tiny uniform particles. These particles were being released in controlled bursts, forming intricate geometric patterns that held their shape for far longer than a natural dust cloud ever could. It looked less like a comet's tail, and more like a painter's brushstroke across the black canvas of space. It was a deliberate display, a signal written in matter instead of light, though its meaning remained completely obscure. Furthermore, Webb's analysis of the object's surface temperature revealed something truly astonishing. While most of the object was frigid as expected for something traveling through deep space, the telescope detected specific points on its surface that were pulsing with heat. These thermal signals were not random. They appeared in a repeating, complex sequence, flashing on and off with machine-like regularity. It was as if parts of the object were powering up and down in a specific cycle. No natural phenomenon could explain this. It was the thermal signature of active machinery, a cosmic engine humming away in the cold void. The data from Webb transformed the discussion from academic debate to urgent global concern. The evidence was overwhelming. 3I Atlas was not a comet. Its precise movements, its structured particulate tail, and its repeating thermal signatures all pointed to one inescapable conclusion. This was an artificial object. It was a probe, a ship, a piece of technology from an unknown civilization, and it was now operating in our own backyard. The question was no longer what it was, but why it was here. The comet that wasn't a comet had just become the most significant discovery in human history. While the James Webb Space Telescope was analyzing the physical properties of 3I/Atlas radio astronomers around the world were, frantically trying to make sense of its emissions, the simple metronome-like radio beat it had been emitting since its discovery was just the beginning. As the object drew nearer to Earth, the nature of the signal began to change. It grew in complexity, shifting from a simple pulse to a sophisticated stream of information. It was still not a language we could understand, but it was undeniably a signal. It was structured, layered, and filled with repeating mathematical patterns. It was a broadcast. The world's largest radio telescopes, from the Green Bank Telescope in West Virginia to China's FAST, coordinated their efforts in an unprecedented global campaign. They were trying to decode a message from another star system. The signal was incredibly weak, buried in the cosmic static, but by combining the power of multiple observatories, a clearer picture began to emerge. The signal contained nested patterns, prime numbers, and what appeared to be representations of fundamental physical constants. It was a classic, "we are not dumb" message, a hallmark of what scientists had long theorized an intelligent civilization might use to make first contact. The patterns were too deliberate to be a coincidence. They were a beacon of intelligence, a clear sign that a mind or minds had designed this transmission. However, it wasn't a conversation. The signal did not respond to our own attempts to communicate. It was a one-way broadcast, a data dump that seemed timed to coincide with its closest approach to our planet. It felt less like an invitation to chat and more like a lecture or perhaps a final statement. The signal's complexity grew exponentially over a period of 72 hours, reaching a fever pitch of information density that overwhelmed our analytical systems. Then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the complex broadcast ceased. The signal didn't just stop, it was cut off. It was as if a switch was flipped. In its place was a profound and unsettling silence. The metronome had stopped ticking. The complex data stream was gone. All that remained was the background hiss of the universe. The object 3I/Atlas continued on its path, but its voice had been extinguished. It had delivered its message, or its data packet, and then had gone silent. The abrupt end to the transmission was perhaps the most mysterious part of the entire encounter. In the hours following the abrupt cutoff of the main broadcast, a single final pulse was detected. It was different from everything that had come before it. It was not a complex data stream, nor was it the simple metronome beat. Instead, it was a short, powerful, and highly focused burst of energy, aimed directly at Earth. This final transmission lasted for only a few seconds, but it was incredibly information-rich. It was also heavily encrypted, or at least, formatted in a way that was completely alien to our understanding. Even our best supercomputers, working around the clock, just couldn't make sense of it. It was a lock for which we had no key. The secrecy surrounding this final transmission was immediate and absolute. While the existence of the main broadcast was too widespread to keep under wraps, governments around the world moved swiftly to classify the details of this final burst. The fragments of information that leaked out were honestly both tantalizing and terrifying. Rumors spoke of a signal that wasn't just data but contained something akin to a blueprint or maybe a map. Other whispers suggested it was a countdown. The official silence from world leaders and space agencies only fueled public speculation and anxiety. What was in that final message that was so important or so dangerous that it had to be hidden from the world? The nature of the final transmission suggested a different purpose from the main broadcast. The main signal seemed to be a general announcement, a display of intelligence for anyone watching, but this final burst was personal. It was targeted. It was a message intended solely for us. The fact that it was incomprehensible was deeply unsettling. Was it a gift of knowledge that we were not yet advanced enough to unlock? Or was it a Trojan horse, a piece of malicious code, a digital virus sent across the interstellar void? The inability to decipher it made every possibility seem equally likely. The mystery of the final transmission became the central puzzle of the 3I/Atlas event. The object itself was now moving away, its physical form shrinking back into a point of light. But it had left behind this digital ghost, this encrypted puzzle box. The silence that followed was heavy with the weight of this unknown. We had received a message from an extraterrestrial intelligence, a moment humanity had dreamed of for centuries. But instead of clarity and wonder, we were left with a secret we couldn't understand, and a fear of what it might mean. The final transmission was a cosmic whisper, and we were left to wonder if it was a promise or a threat. What was the purpose of this elaborate silent flyby? As 3I/Atlas receded into the darkness, humanity was left to grapple with its meaning. Theories flew thick and fast, ranging from the hopeful to the horrifying. One school of thought held that the object was a benign probe, a message in a cosmic bottle. Perhaps it was sent by a long-dead civilization, a time capsule carrying their knowledge and legacy across the stars. In this view, the final transmission was a gift, an Encyclopedia Galactica that we simply lacked the key to read. It was a test of our intelligence and a potential treasure trove of unimaginable secrets about the universe. Another more cautious theory proposed that 3I/Atlas was a reconnaissance drone. Its purpose was not to communicate but to observe. It flew through our system, cataloging our planets, analyzing our star, and taking a close look at Earth. Its precise maneuvers were designed to get the best possible vantage point. The transmissions were not a message to us but a data upload back to its home base, a report on what it had found. We weren't the recipients of a message, we were the subject of a study. This idea was, honestly, deeply unsettling. Being watched by an unknown and vastly superior intelligence is not a comfortable feeling. Taking the reconnaissance theory a step further leads to a more militaristic interpretation. Was this surveillance with a purpose? Was 3I/Atlas a scout, sent ahead to assess our capabilities and weaknesses? In this scenario, the flyby was not a friendly visit, but a strategic assessment. Oumuamua might have been the first quick look, and 3I/Atlas the more detailed follow-up. The final transmission could have been a marker, a targeting solution, or even a final report to an advancing fleet. This warning shot theory, while sounding like pulp science fiction, could not be easily dismissed given the object's technological sophistication. Finally, there was the theory that this was a test. The object's behavior was a deliberate provocation, designed to see how we would react. Would we be hostile? Would we be fearful? Would we be curious and collaborative? The entire event could have been a carefully designed psychological experiment on a planetary scale. Our global response, the scientific cooperation, the government secrecy, the public panic, was the data being collected. Perhaps the final transmission was not a message, but a trigger, and the test is still ongoing. We are left looking at each other, wondering if we passed.